6:09, we are going to reconvene to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. At the following, from the following executive session, the participants were Trustee Cartwright, Fox, Harris, Mayor Pro Tem David Adams, Town Manager Mickelbrink, Town Planner Chris Kennedy, Town Engineer Eric Rasmussen, PIO Lorelei Nelson, and Town Clerk Treasurer Mary Strutt. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. We're going to go right into our moment of silence. Please join me in the moment of silence for former Vice President Walter Mondale, who passed us last week, and for our current and past leaders of our country. Thank you very much for your time, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on to review and approve the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
A motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Fox.
Yes.
Trustee Babcock.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Next will be our town manager report. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. You have my report in your packet. There's a couple of things I'd like to highlight. First of all, here are the keys to the bean plant. We are now the proud owners. I just really want to give a shout out to the board on that. This has been a long journey to owning it. When we set out, it was in November, we thought we would close, but we just closed today. And once we have an all clear, I'm going to send out a message to the board if anybody wants to come over and see it. But I'm going to send Public Works in first, just to make sure.
I was going to say, is it actually empty? Do we know?
We think so, but
yeah,
we're not 100% sure. But so that's an exciting, really exciting time for the town of Mead. Another thing in the report that I'm sure you read, that we, meaning the town of Mead and Milliken, Johnstown, and Berthoud, selected Magellan to run the process of looking at broadband for our 4 towns. We're very excited. We did quite a bit of background checking. Johnstown is taking the lead on it. I included the contract in here if anybody wanted to see the scope of work. We'll be kicking that off. I think Matt's bringing it to his board next week, and once it's all signed, we will start having public meetings on that as well. This summer's going to be really busy with events and public meetings on this subject as well as on the bean plant. So stay tuned for that. I also like to point out that we have been applying for several grants. One is for the intersection of Welker and 3rd, but we also put in for 2 other grants that are revitalizing Main Street grants. One is for the sign plan that we will be presenting tonight, the contract, and another is for Highland Lake. It would give us an additional $125,000 to complete the Highland Lake improvements. So we also are very optimistic about getting those grants. We continue to monitor grant opportunities as it comes in. COVID money, COVID relief money looks like it may find its way to our doorstep. So we are trying to do everything we can to get that money. A couple things I also wanted to mention. First of all, we met with Slate Communications on Friday, so I couldn't get it into the report, but we kind of downloaded back from, she contacted each one of you, and so she's assimilating the feedback, and her recommendation is to move forward with a mailing to all the residents seeking input on a number of things. So I just wanted to let you all know that she's working on that. You'll get a chance to see it before it goes out, but I just wanted to make you aware that that project is moving on. I also wanted to let you know that the St. Vrain Valley School District let us know, and I don't know if Kaylee's gonna mention it, but according to their rules, we're not gonna be able to use any of their facilities before the fall. Nobody is. So that means no outside facilities, no inside facilities. Just kind of further cementing what we had thought earlier, but they were very definitive on that. Also, I don't know if you all heard today, this is kind of a Colorado thing, but we're getting an 8th congressional district because of the census. So we'll have another congressman representing Colorado. Just came out this afternoon. I thought that was kind of exciting. Some states lost representatives and we happen to gain one. So that's pretty exciting for the state of Colorado. They don't know where the district will be carved out yet, so. And then finally, for your consideration, we are thinking about canceling the June 1st Board of Trustee meeting. As you know, the 31st of May is a Monday and that's Memorial Day. And the reason why we're recommending this is we would have 3 meetings in June. It would be the 1st of June and then the 14th and the 28th. And we feel that it would be reasonable to cancel that meeting, on top of several other things that you'll be invited to. For example, we have the community forum on May 6th. We're gonna have concerts starting. We're gonna have a number of events in June. So I'm asking you all if you would agree with that. We looked at the schedule of all the things. Our next meeting on the 10th is gonna be very full. We'll have a mirror meeting and quite a number of action items. And as we looked forward, we thought it might be better to just have the 2 meetings in June instead of that other. So I don't know.
It would be like a month with no meeting then.
We would
Because we'd
be
go from the 10th of May to the 14th of June.
Yes.
We don't have enough, I just worry, is that too long? We've got so many things coming up.
I guess my advice is let's think about it till the 10th and let's look and see if there are things. You don't have to make the decision tonight, but it's just something to consider. Because when we meet every Monday and do agenda review and we start planning out what's gonna be on each agenda. And when we realized there were gonna be 3 in June, it's just a thought. I mean, it's on the schedule, we can always have it, so just something to consider. I just throw it out there and we'll bring it back up on May 10th. And then finally, before you ask any more questions, I'd like Chief to step up. We have a bit of a situation over on 66 that he needs to bring to your attention.
Mayor, trustees, I just wanted to point out, we had a truck slide off at 66 and County Road 3, and it's actually sticking out onto 66. So we've been out there since 4 o'clock, diverting traffic. We've kept the highway open, but it's gonna take 2 heavy wreckers to get that truck back upright and off out of the way. So due to the overhead power lines and some other concerns, they want to shut 66 down. It may have already started. Probably will be fairly brief, hopefully just half an hour maybe, for them to do that. And so as soon as that truck is upright and back on County Road 3, we'll open it back up. But I just want to make you aware of it. Coincidentally, Highway 52, they had a crash there and had it shut down for a little bit. I believe it's back open now, but not a good combination of closures all at one time, especially during rush hour traffic. So as you can imagine, if you hear word about that, that's what happened. We also were celebrating a little bit today as we have our staffing after Officer Cramblay passed field training last week. We're up to that full staffing level of almost full staffing level, but 3 officers on each side and 1 sergeant on each side. And of course the sergeant was off today, so but we still have the 3 officers working. This all happened when 1 officer's here, of course, but I did have the late officer come in a little bit early to help handle other calls, because obviously the pursuing shift officer's gonna be stuck on that scene for probably at least another hour, so, just to make you aware of that, and, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, try to find the answer.
Can you just give an update on the hazmat spill off I-25 to Adams? Was it Friday, Thursday or Friday?
So it wasn't so much a spill as a propane leak.
Yeah, okay.
I think the tank ended up off-gassing completely. They were a little bit concerned about, damage to the bridge. But I never, assumed no news is good news. I never heard any follow-up from CDOT on that, and I never saw any closures, once they opened Adams back up, so, that was probably the biggest delay on that was initially the leakage of the propane, and then afterwards, some inspection to make sure that the bridge integrity wasn't affected.
Okay, thank you. I just
Sure.
wanted, because it was like closed for hours.
Yeah.
During rush hour on Friday.
Yeah, and it's always hard to anticipate how long that's gonna take, and just when we thought that was gonna clear up and get open again, then they, decided they really needed to get an inspection of that bridge before they did that, so better to be safe than sorry, but I think it's all good now, so.
All right, thanks, Chief, appreciate it.
I had to laugh at one thing on your report. The report of shots fired. The suspect fired a handgun and a laptop. Oh my gosh, how many times have I wanted to do that? That one just made me laugh. I just had to point it out because it was hilarious.
Spirit animal.
Yes. Yep. Right. Nothing important. That was hilarious.
Thanks for the chuckle.
This is exactly the situation too, it's like, just been wanting to do that for a long time.
Yep, yep.
Just not in town.
Can hardly blame them.
All right, thanks, Chief, appreciate it. Any questions or comments for Helen? David, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I do not.
I have two questions, if you don't mind. I'm sure Erica will probably answer these. The sidewalk that is parallel to the work that's gonna happen on Rangeview during May 1st through the 3rd, will the sidewalk be accessible for people to use during May 1st through May 3rd?
No, the sidewalk will have to be closed because they'll be crossing it with, sewer line
Okay.
that they'll be excavating, so it'll be an open excavation.
Okay. You may wanna say something about that, because people have used that side of that path a while, so, thank you. And then, after this gas line work that was done for Highlands, are they gonna fix what they, I don't even know what they did, but I'm not an engineer or anything, but some of the road is,
Yeah, it's a bit of Swiss cheese out there
Yeah.
right now. They've done a lot of potholing and a lot of excavation, and so they're actually gonna have to overlay the whole width of the road when they're done.
okay. All right, will you let us know when they're going to do that? Maybe we can get some social media out there.
Sure.
Posting. Thank you very much. Sorry to delay that from James from you to her.
I had something that I thought of when you mentioned that. So 28 where they did theirs, are they done? Please tell me they're not done.
No, they're not done.
Okay,
That-
good, cause
they-
that is awful.
That is awful.
Okay.
That is, that's two different developments working over there, the St. Acacia's now called, what is it, Chris? Lakeside? Lakeside Canyon. It had to do the bridge, and then the church did their part, but there's gonna be an ultimate overlay of that in, a couple months, Erica? So, yeah, I know, and it rides rough. I just rode it again today. The striping is terrible.
Yeah.
But it's all temporary. They wanted to leave it closed, and we said no, because we needed it open, but that isn't our finest work, and it
Okay.
will be much
Okay.
better. Yeah.
Anything else?
Drive at your own risk.
Thanks for your report. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to our informational items. I see Chief Webb here today, and he's from Mountain View Fire Protection District, and he's gonna talk about the fire code. Hi, sir, how are you?
I've never used
Yeah.
your thing before, so
There you go.
it's magic. Good evening. My name is Jeff Webb. I'm the Deputy Chief and Fire Marshal for Mountain View Fire. In the board packet, we're proposing a fire code that has been adopted by the Mountain View Board of Directors. Title 32 of the Colorado Revised Statutes give the special district boards the power to adopt codes. However, in order for them to be enforceable in towns, municipalities, counties, the boards of those agencies have to ratify them essentially. And so, what we've done is, you have to start somewhere, and this is kind of a circular logic sort of thing where somebody has to come up with a code and then submit it, and everybody discusses it, talks about it, and they have to come back a couple of times, but we all want it, our goal is to end up with as close to one fire code for the entire district as possible. However, I do understand the politics and the various wants and needs of the different towns that we serve. Right now, we're serving 7 municipalities and 3 counties. So trying to get 8 agencies all to agree on the same fire code is, it's gonna be difficult, but we're gonna get through it. The code is designed to harmonize with your building codes. We've written it so that if your residential code or your building code says, I'm gonna use the contentious residential sprinkler rule, if you've adopted that section, we have certain features that we like to see on residential sprinklers. For instance, if the water's flowing, we like to have an alarm in the house so the resident knows the water's moving. Additionally, if it's a residential sprinkler system that has a tank on it, we wanna have a fire department connection on the front so we can just hook to it with our truck and essentially give it infinite supplies of water, not the limited tank supply that comes with it. So there are certain features that we like to see if the town has adopted those as part of their residential code. If not, they don't apply. The code is a lot thicker than previous versions of this, and that's because we've had certain things that come up throughout the district that are high risk, low frequency kind of items, but we want something in there to address them. In this particular code, there's a chapter 40 in here that does not exist in the current fire code or the future fire code that's the 21 code. And that is, it's all about alcoholic beverage production. This came up in other parts of the district, not necessarily in your town, where micro distilleries had built into industrial areas. And they don't realize exactly how much flammable liquids they're playing with. So there's a section in the code that deals with that. We had a similar one in the past that dealt with butane hash oil and CBD production using solvents. Again, large quantities of flammable liquids, there's something that we need in the code to deal with that. That was so successful in the last code cycle that it is now part of the standard International Fire Code. Chapter 38 is all about resin stripping out of vegetation, which is their generalization of all those processes. Each of the items that are in here are because we saw a need, something that we've run across. The fire code is one of those things where you can really see and put a name to each event or each section of the code. This is here because this bad thing happened. And so we try to balance risk by building them into the code so that we reduce future risk while looking at the economics of the situations involved. We don't want to make we don't want to mandate that all houses are built out of concrete, although that would be a really safe house. It's just not feasible. So what we do is we put safety features into the houses. Your building code does that. Right now, what we ask you to do is to look through the code that we've adopted at the Mountain View Fire Protection District. We'd be asking in the future that the town ratify the code. If we need to go through some negotiation to look at a section in particular or figure out that maybe solar panel wiring, which is chapter 6, needs to be addressed a little bit differently, we can do that, but what we're trying to get to is a code that is as uniform across our district between Mead and all the way through Erie and Superior and Dacono plan. Right now, our people have 7 different codes they have to work through, and we can do it, but we can do better too. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them for you.
Go ahead, Ellen.
Well, I have a question, and I know Chris is working with our chief building official on, as you know, we had adopted a new building code, about 2 years ago. And so we're looking at, you know, as soon as you roll out a code, you
Yes.
start tripping over some things that need
Yes.
to be corrected. So as we look at those corrections, I think it would be important to look at what you're proposing here and make sure that everything meshes. Like
Mhm.
you said, if it's written, if you adopted sprinklers, then A, B, C, and D apply. But I wanna make sure that they're congruous,
Mhm.
our code and what you're proposing. So I guess I would just speak for all of us to say, we need a little time to digest that and make sure that it doesn't, that we don't run into a conflict.
And I fully understand that, and this isn't an acute problem, this is a chronic issue that we're trying to get through. The place where it is actually acute is, as you may have known, the Mountain View Fire Protection District and the Rocky Mountain Fire Protection District merged on January 1st. They had adopted a code set in Superior and in Boulder County. Well, Rocky Mountain is no more. So essentially that code, we're working under the grandfathered version of that, but it's led to some strangeness. So we're using this opportunity to try to bring the entire district to one code. And to address the fact that because Rocky doesn't exist, no defined code exists down in Superior. In point of fact, the town took over, they adopted a very minimalist code to sort of get through the situation, but we're working with them as well. I don't expect I'm trying to get these through the process through the summer, so that as we move into the fall, we've got all 8 agencies kind of talking the same language, and we have a code set that we can work with.
Anyone have questions, comments? David, do you have any questions or comments for Chief Webb?
No, I do not at this time.
Cool.
Great, thank you.
That was easy.
Yeah, all right, see you soon. All right, next is our update from, recreation summer schedule by our recreational coordinator, David.
Hello, everyone. Okay, here's our summer recreation and events that we have planned. Just a little spring recap. Our youth sports went over really well. We had a total of 90 registrations for soccer, which allowed us to create 10 different teams. And then volleyball, we had a total of 84 registrations with 10 teams, and that's going really well. So that's exciting. For the summer, we'll have T-ball. We're currently have 75 kids registered, and this is preschool through 1st grade. So that's a lot of kiddos that we are going to have playing T-ball this summer, which is exciting. And that will start May 24th will be the first week of that season, and that will go till the end of July. Some camps that we're gonna have come in are soccer, flag football, volleyball, and multi-sport, and basketball. All those are Skyhawks, except soccer is going to be Challenger soccer, and those will be hosted by those groups in town at various parks. And then our youth programs that we are offering are Wildlife Explorers and Summer Bucket List, and registration is open for those. We don't have a ton of registrations yet, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks we will get some more, and those are afternoon classes. Our tournaments and leagues, we'll have that youth basketball tournament in the end of May 22nd. And then adult cornhole league will be in June, as well as disc golf will be in July, and those are adult leagues. So that's the cornhole we are partnering with the chamber on, and we are using their boards, and we'll have hopefully a beer garden, which would make it a little more fun for those adults. Our older active adults, our senior lunch is still going. We're still doing to-go style, so they're just picking their lunches up and going and eating at their houses. We are anticipating to resume in late May or June. We'll have to follow the guidelines set forth by Friendly Fork, and also Weld County. The health department will help us make those. once we are given the approval, and Friendly Forks helps us as well. We are going to start exercise on Wednesdays in May, and they'll be exercising outside on this patio. As many as, like, I think there will be 8 to 10, but then we can also move into the grass. And for the month of May, they'll bring their own equipment, so the instructor has asked us to ask the adults to bring like soup cans or water bottles, and then eventually we'll reintroduce our equipment that we have, once we create a cleaning protocol, and stuff. And then yoga will start in June, and that will take place out at the gazebo. And that will have a minimum of 7 have to register for that class, max of 10, and that will be with an instructor. Our field trips that we're kind of looking at, we have booked the Rockies game for them. We have a total of 17 tickets available, and that will be on a Wednesday, June 16th, game for them. So we're gonna get a bus and go down, which they're very excited for, and then we're looking at a tour of the Stanley Hotel, probably sometime end of July, August, September time. Their restrictions are a lot, you can only have 10, and for us to rent a bus to get up to Estes, only allowing 10 is not super feasible for us. So hopefully, when their group size, opens up a little, we can take more at a time, which will be good. Some of our community events, the cleanup days are happening in just a couple weeks. We have signs going out for that and banners, going up. Fishing is Fun will be on June 5th, and then the bike parade will also be July 5th, and that's that Monday after 4th of July, and then National Night Out is on a Tuesday on August 3rd, and we'll have a band with that one, so that will be a fun night. And then here is our summer concert and movie lineup. We start with the concert opening on June 17th, and then we'll have the movie, concert, and this is the lineup that we have. So the movies are Field of Dreams and the new Disney movie Raya, and then we have the Funkino, Lauren Fiara, and she was on The Voice, was it? The Voice, a couple years ago, so, and she's from Byers, so that'll be a fun one. She's local, and then Mojo Mama, is the other one, so. Are there any questions?
Questions? I just wanna say the disc golf and the cornhole are gonna be on Tuesdays, right?
Yes.
Tuesdays.
Yep.
Tuesdays are fun nights.
Yes.
Mondays are in here, Tuesdays are
Yep.
fun nights. Yeah, there you go.
Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Compared to, well, not last year, but the years before, how is registration? I mean, it seems like it's really high this year.
I know T-ball is extremely high. This is the most we've ever had registered for T-ball, so, but then soccer and volleyball we have had more. We offered 7th and 8th grade this year, and that was about 30 girls, so that increased registration a lot. In soccer, I think increased a little as well, but it's definitely growing a lot more.
That's great. I think it's great. That whole program is coming together. It's great.
Yes, hopefully we'll have our own in a couple of years.
Dave, do you have any questions or comments for Kim?
No, everything sounds great. Looking forward to the event.
All right, thank you. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 3 proclamations tonight. The first one is Municipal Clerks Week, and we will have our clerks here tonight. Our town clerk treasurer Mary Strutt will introduce this proclamation, and Amy.
Yeah, so, thank you. Municipal Clerks Week is next week. And so just from the clerk's office, just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to be your clerks here. We do enjoy working with the town of Mead. In the clerk's office, we do all your contracts, your meetings, permitting, elections, and records management. But in addition, we do municipal court. And Amy Brossman was hired last year because we had a contractor for 28 years doing our municipal court for us, and I'm not sure that everybody knows what municipal court does, so I've asked Amy to say a few words if that's all right. So, Amy, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Amy, and I was hired last February 2020 to be the municipal court clerk for the town of Mead. I'm very excited to be here. I grew up here and I love this town, and it's nice to work here finally. So, municipal court, we have 2 specific court dates that happen each month. On the second Monday of each month, we have our trial dates, and that happens from 8 to 1. Typically they're at 1 o'clock. And then the third Thursday of every month is going to be our arraignment nights. Typically in a year, we have about 4 to 5 trials. Most of the time, the defendants will plea out during the arraignments. That's why it's such a small number. The arraignment dockets are typically about 30 to 40 people. We have seen an increase in the last year from when I first started to now. It used to be probably about 15 to 20 people, and it's gradually gone up. But obviously there are some days that we have less people here. Let's see. In the last year, I have worked with Judge Thrower to update our procedures to make everything run a little bit more smoothly as we continue to grow with the police department. We have also reconstructed our forms and documents to make it a little bit easier for people to navigate. And this past year, due to COVID-19, we had to cancel court for 3 months, but we ended up going to virtual court via Zoom, which was very interesting, and so far it has worked very smoothly. It has been a little bit of a trial and error, but we expect to go back to in-person court this summer. So we're just hoping for the best with that. The cases that we typically see in municipal court are going to be traffic infractions, traffic offenses, minor offenses, juvenile cases, and animal control issues. And that's typically what we see. Most of it is probably traffic, but there are those here and there. We expect to grow as the police department grows, and obviously that's been happening so far, but I'm sorry, I don't have anything else to say.
I do have a question. I've never been to court. I hope I never have to go to court. But when we're having courts in here, is it done by number or is it done by like section, like traffic and then animals and then youth?
It's actually first come, first served. So the way typically in-person court works is I have a docket and I check people in, I give them their advisement of rights, and then I bring them in here and I bring the judge the case files. He calls them in the order that they were received, and then once their case is done, they're coming back out to check out with me. So I'm kind of running back and forth between, but there's not a specific order, it's just whoever comes first.
Does everybody stay in the lobby?
Mm-hmm. Typically, I mean, not in the lobby, so when they come in, there's a crowd because everybody's waiting to be checked in just by me, but then they come in here and they sit down in the red chairs and they patiently wait. And the way we're doing it now is people are waiting in the waiting room for like an hour and a half until they get their case called, because we've noticed that virtual court goes quite a bit slower than typical court for a lot of connection issues and whatnot.
Right. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Questions?
Where's our waiting room?
No, the
The virtual waiting room.
The virtual waiting room.
You didn't know the addition we put up?
Like looking at closets. They stand at the bays next door.
David, do you have any questions or comments for Amy? David?
He's got his hand raised, so I don't know. Yay? Okay.
Well, I'm sure if David has questions, we can get your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for being
Thank
here
you.
tonight, and thank you for what you're doing for our town.
Of course.
Yeah, it's good to have, good, glad you finally got to work where you live.
Oh, I was very excited to
Yeah.
get this job, so
Yeah.
it's great to be here.
Well, thank you very much. We
Wait,
appreciate
wait,
it.
wait,
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Do you do this full time?
I do.
You do, okay.
I do. So, prior to, when Linda was working as the contractor, she was coming in, I believe, Mondays of every week, and then here for court trials and court arraignments. I am here full time because I also help Mary with, a lot of the licensing and permits as well, so I'm kind of her backup as well.
Perfect, okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you very much. Anything else, Mary? Okay, all right. So tonight, trustee Cartwright, will you please read the proclamation for Municipal Clerks Week?
I will. Let's see. Proclamation for Municipal Courts Week, May 2nd through May 8th, 2021. Whereas the Office of Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas municipal clerks provide the professional link between citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, and whereas municipal clerks serve as the information center on functions of local government and community, and whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the municipality, now, therefore, Colleen Whitlow, Mayor of the Town of Mead, does hereby proclaim May 2nd through May 8th, 2021 as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extends appreciation to our professional municipal clerk and deputy clerk for the vital services they perform.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. And thank you, Amy, and thank you, Mary, for everything you guys do for us. Appreciate it very much. Is there a motion to authorize the signing of the proclamation?
I move to approve the signing of the proclamation for Clerks Week.
And I will second.
All right, any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Harris,
Yes.
trustee Babcock,
Yes.
trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
trustee Fox,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, motion carries. Next, our second proclamation will be our Teachers Appreciation Week. And trustee Babcock, will you please read that proclamation?
So we are proclaiming next week, May 2nd through May 8th, as Teacher Appreciation Week. Whereas teachers mold future citizens through guidance and education, and whereas our country's future depends on providing quality education to all students, and whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, and performing community service, and whereas in the past year of the COVID-19 pandemic, teachers were flexible and innovative with their teaching and distribution methods and adapted to remote and hybrid learning models. And whereas our community recognizes and supports teachers in educating the children of this community, now, therefore, Colleen Whitlow, Mayor of the Town of Mead, do hereby proclaim May 2nd through May 8th, 2021 as Teacher Appreciation Week, and on behalf of the Town of Mead Board of Trustees, extend appreciation to all of the teachers at Mead Elementary, Mead Middle, and Mead High School, and also to all teachers at public, private, and home schools, given under her hand and seal of the Town of Mead, Colorado on this 26th day of April, 2021.
Thank you very much for reading that, appreciate it. Is there a motion to authorize the signing of this proclamation?
I'll make a motion to sign the proclamation for Teacher Appreciation Week.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
trustee Babcock,
Yes.
trustee Fox,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. Our third and final proclamation for this evening, and I will probably mess this word up. Neurofibrosis Awareness Month, May 21, and I have got trustee Harris to read this proclamation
Yeah.
today, so thank you very much, I appreciate it.
All right. Proclamation for declaring May 2021 Neurofibromatosis Awareness Month. Whereas the Children's Tumor Foundation is observing May 2021 as Neurofibromatosis, also known as NF, Awareness Month to educate the public about this rare genetic disorder, and whereas NF affects all populations equally regardless of race, ethnicity, or gender, and whereas NF causes tumors to grow on nerves throughout the body and also can affect development of the brain, cardiovascular system, bones, and tissue, and whereas the Children's Tumor Foundation leads efforts to promote and financially support world-class medical research aimed at finding effective treatments and ultimately a cure for NF, and whereas the Children's Tumor Foundation works to improve access to quality patient health care through its National NF Clinic network, and whereas the Children's Tumor Foundation provides patient and family support through its information resources, youth programs, and local chapter activities, and whereas much remains to be done in raising public awareness of NF to help promote early diagnosis, proper management and treatment, prevention of complications, and support for research. Now therefore, Colleen Whitlow, Mayor, Town of Mead, in recognition of this important initiative, does hereby proclaim the month of May 2021 as Neurofibromatosis Awareness Month, given under her hand and seal of the Town of Mead, Colorado on this 26th day of April 2021.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Is there a motion to authorize the signing of the proclamation?
I move to authorize the signing of Neurofibromatosis Awareness Month 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Fox,
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
Trustee Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes, and thank you very much for reading those proclamations this evening, trustees. Next, we'll go on to our first public comment. The board welcomes public comment for any item, whether it is on the agenda or not. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. If you desire a conversation, please email the board or town manager or attend the quarterly open forum or monthly coffee with the mayor. If you're with us virtually, please indicate by raising your hand to speak. When you're recognized, please state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone out there? Jean Brotcher, would you like to say anything tonight? Jean?
She's probably not even at her computer. She's got us on in the background.
All right, we'll move on. Jean, anyway, thanks for being with us. Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda, but before we move on to this this agenda item, I just wanted to let you know, trustees, that I was honored to stop by the Affinity recently to say thanks for being a partner with Mead, and I met two of the new additions to their Affinity staff. We did not talk about anything about the site plan that's later in this agenda, on this consent agenda, but I just wanted to make sure that is in full disclosure that I did stop by to say hi to them, so at their office in Loveland. So I just wanted to say that, and we'll move on to this. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and enacted in one motion and vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Fox,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
Trustee Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Quick question.
Yes.
Now, since you went and did that, now maybe you know. How big is Affinity? Like, how far do they reach? How big are they? I know it's not a weird question, like, how many co-ops do they actually have? Do we know?
I can't tell you.
No?
I
was
know
just
that
curious
there
how
are in
big they
other
are.
states.
Yeah, they are.
And
Okay.
I believe they're in 10 states, but I can find that information.
Okay, I was just curious how local they
They're
were.
bigger than I thought.
Yeah. Okay.
They're international.
Yeah, that does sound bigger than I thought already, so, interesting.
Well, when I went to their website here, there's some in Brighton, Eaton, Greeley, Henderson, Loveland is the main office, and then Mead,
And Lucerne.
Lucerne, where's that?
But I don't.
I I don't know what that is.
But they're also.
Well, in Lucerne.
They're also, part of an aggregate, and they're in Canada and other states, so. It's just the name, Agfinity happens to be for this area.
So those have different names in different
Yeah.
areas.
Apparently, I just looked that up, and, yeah, apparently they're
Bless you.
all over the place. Bless you.
It's the flowers. Okay, sorry, didn't mean to get us too far off topic, I was just a curiosity thing.
Okay. Did we all finish roll call?
Yes.
All right, just wanna make sure I'm on the track. Okay, we'll move on to new business, resolution number 21-R-2021. This will be introduced by our Health Information Officer, Lorelei. Thank you for your patience tonight. It's okay?
Alright. Thank you. I just wanted to give an overview, step by step on how this would work, for our town. So the first step would be an analysis, and this would be done by KMA. So they would review the existing conditions, so the signs we have, the location. They would assess stakeholders, which would, I want to be clear, is not a community outreach because that's a different type of planning. But this would be talking to walkers, bikers, businesses, downtown area, staff, trustees, to get an overview of the signage needs in Mead. And then it would be defining key destinations. So they are the ones that are going to figure out where we need this signage at, where we should place the gateway signs, where downtown signs should be. They cover all of that. So the next step would go into design, and this is a continuation of our current branding. So most of the work is done here. We already have a solid brand, and some of that signage stuff has already been set out. So what KMA would do, they would develop 3 different design concepts, and then we would revise and look at those and then pick one. And then they would build out a sign family, as they call it. So this is a design and schematics for every possible sign the town of Mead will need now and in the future. So all of that work is already done. So we're talking navigation signs, pedestrian signs, bike signs, gateway signs, electronic signs, it covers it all. And then we implement. So working with KMA and budgeting, we decide what these signs are going to be made out of. What you make it out of is going to affect the price. So obviously we don't want anything that's going to skyrocket and eat up all the funding, but we don't want plywood out there either. So we want to find a happy medium that we can have a solid sign that reflects our community. Then KMA does all the construction documents, coordinates with CDOT, and that's when they look to us for approval for fabrication. So it's at this time that we decide what signs we're going to place, the number, and that's going to be based on different priorities. So my perspective, not anybody else's, but my perspective would be to look at removing the old sign first. Get those old gateway signs out of here, replace the park signs because they have old logos. They're outdated, we have different rules, so that's the kind of stuff that we'll be looking for at this approval of fabrication stage. So fabrication and installation. Again, KMA is doing all of this. So they will be in charge of the site walk, they'll stake sign locations, they'll do the installations, and their signs come with a warranty. So it's 5 years, all parts, and then 1 year on anything electrical. So what does this bring us? It's a unified need. So we're getting signs for key destinations. Businesses are supported. People know we have businesses over at Highway 66. They know that that is part of Mead. We attract economic development. So signage is the face of Mead. And this is what is going to bring more businesses in, more commercial in. It also differentiates us from other towns. So we're not an extension of Longmont or Berthoud, we are Mead. And it also gives the community and a small town feeling to those outlying areas where they may not even know they're a part of Mead. So it's bringing it all together. And again, as I mentioned in the work session, no resident tax dollars go to this. It is all impact fees. We are also applying for a Revitalized Main Street grant, $125,000. That specific grant is for bike and pedestrian signage and also a electronic kiosk, or electronic sign. Part of that grant needed technological innovation, and because of the CDOT grant, you go into pedestrian and bicycle navigation signs, so it's a safety thing. We want to be able to navigate the people that are walking and biking through town, direct them to our trails, direct them to our parks safely, remind people that are driving that they share the road with walkers and bikers. And again, sorry, these services are provided via a task order. So we assign the task and they do it. It is not a blank check. Questions?
Question? Brooke, then Steve, or Steve, go ahead.
I don't know if it's a question so much as I have to still question and pause of spending money, and a large amount of money, granted from impact fees, but on signage for this small little town that we can't even fix our roads and fund replace. So this is less directed at you, as more as, I still pause. I think our old signs that are 3 logos back or whatever, yeah, they're old and they need replaced. This scope feels a little far reaching and a little big, I guess big for our britches. And not that I'm not for it, but I have to say that. I have to say that it feels, I mean, there was a lot of controversy about one sign. So I wanna make sure that, I guess we're all on board with this. That's
Steve?
That's the first thing that came to my mind when you mentioned a digital sign. Here we go again. But I see this as such an overarching project. You know, we're planning for growth. We're planning for the connectivity of our town, and with that, we're putting safety first, right? So sharing the roadways, things of that nature, I think all kinds of plays into that. Fortunately, it says that we're looking to have Mura match our $100,000. So half would come from the Urban Renewal Authority. But that $200,000 you have essentially for 1 year, through the end of April 2022.
That's the contract with KMA, yes.
Is your expectation that that is all encompassing, or is this phase 1 of a multi-year plan? Because you mentioned a prioritization of different, starting with the gateway signs and then, you know, kind of going from there. Is this $200,000 phase one of 4, or is this $200,000 phase 1 of 1?
The $200,000 would pretty much be all encompassing, as in the signage needs right now. The grant would get us $125,000 specifically for an electronic sign downtown area. That's because it's grant specific. So without that grant, we'll have to figure out other funding. But that $200,000 is for the signage that we would need now. That's not to say that we write a check for $200,000 and there's 100 signs in Mead. This is it's a process. So we are going to look at you know, what needs to be done first and go through those priority lists. The reason that it was a contract for April, twofold. One, if we get the grant, that signage needs to be done within 8 months. So that puts us in November or in December. So if we want to do anything else, we would need some additional time to get that done. It also honestly leaves us an out. So if it's not a good situation, the contract's done, and we can, you know, look at other possibilities. Because KMA is doing it all, we have the brand, we have the design, we have the construction documents. So if we're not happy with it, at April, we're done, and we can look for somebody else to do those. But it also gives us a little bit more flexibility time-wise to get additional signage needs completed.
One more, I guess I can form it in a question. We've talked about all of the upcoming construction that's taking place, relocating overhead lines underground and all of that. And I think the worst thing we could do is fund a new sign and 2 months later have to take it down.
For sure.
Or relocate it. So safe to assume that all of the proposed construction is part of this consideration of this project. We're erring on the side of caution.
Yes.
There could be a sidewalk here in 6 months.
And all of that, you know, Chris and Erica were both in the interviews, and we were all really impressed with KMA and their ability to work with towns. They will be a major part of trying to figure out where we're placing these, because obviously we don't want a sign if we don't have a sidewalk in 6 months. And KMA will work with that, and that also goes back to how this is it's a project in process. We may start out with, for example, we have 6 parks. We'll have 6 park signs. But as we get more parks, we should have more signs. The same way with, you know, any kind of navigational sign, or, you know, bike signage. As we grow, we'll get more. We're not going to throw out 20 signs from the get-go.
2 questions. First of all, the $125,000 you're talking about is not part of the $200,000.
No, that would be in addition to.
And if it could only be used as a digital sign, we need to make it really clear that we got this for that.
Yes.
And we can't use it for anything else.
That is part of the grant.
Okay.
So the way that I wrote the grant was, it's a CDOT grant, so there's a couple of things they're looking at. One was pedestrian and bicycle safety, and the other one was innovative technology use in downtown. And so that's what I focused on specifically for a digital kiosk. And the beauty of having an electronic sign downtown is, you can do public safety information out there, which was another part of the grant. You can highlight businesses, you can highlight your parks and trails. So it's very versatile, and that's what they were looking at for that grant. And they're expensive, so that's where that money is.
Okay, and then second question is, the $200,000 for the impact fees, what other things could that be used for, if it wasn't used for the signage?
So, we have $50,000 roughly in the downtown impact fund. This is an impact fund that, it's at least 5 years ago, we stopped collecting that money. So the intention for that money always was some sort of signage or some directional way to get people to our downtown. So what could it else be used for? You could put benches, you could do physical things, but it has to be a capital expenditure, like all impact fees. And that's typically, that's really what it was intended to be used for. That's why we crafted this project, was to use that money to enhance our downtown. And then the other $50,000 that is coming from the parks impact fee could be used for anything capital in a park. But one of the keys to creating kind of a emerald necklace, if you will, of parks, is to make everybody know that that's a town park. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times people will stop here and say, well, what's that park up there? What's that? You know, they're talking about Founders, or what, is that down there? Is that a park? So that part of the impact fund is to design and build parks, and also to sign them. So, yeah, you could do picnic tables, you could build parks, but they all have to be capital projects associated with it. And then the other $100,000 is coming from, hopefully, when we asked Mira, we had it budgeted 2 years ago when we went down the path. First, we did the branding, and then the idea was to have Mira, from an economic development standpoint, start to integrate this through signs. And that's where we kind of went off the rail, because we really stopped with the logo. So our new, that's where it ended. So this is a classic economic development tool to try to shrink our borders a little bit. Because if you look particularly on the east side, the number of proposals that we're looking at, I mean, before you know it, the east side is gonna kind of outweigh the west side just in residential alone. So at least it's my feeling, we need to give a sense of where Mead is. And as we sprawl to the east, and frankly to the west, this whole idea is to try to bring the story together and brand the community. So that's kind of that's where the money goes. Obviously, it could be used in other ways, but that was the intention that Mira had, and this is a way of leveraging the funds so we can do a whole project.
I was curious just because I don't want us to be using money that should be targeted for other things, but I believe that too many people don't know about Mead, and that this is gonna be I think this is a good project. I think that all the parks coming together it's a good choice. I think it's a good option to try and, I guess the biggest thing I have is that people drive down 66, they have no idea that they're in Mead. And if we don't get them on board with the fact that they're not in Longmont, that they're not in somewhere else, who knows what they think it is, Firestone or whatever, we're never going to be able to attract people here to Mead because they're going to think they're going to Longmont. I think we can see that. Yeah, I'm on board with this 100%.
Thanks, Chris. I think it's a great project. I think we've waited long enough. A couple of years down the road, I think we've done it. We can see how many different logos we've got. And my biggest thing is we have so many different logos that we don't even know who we are. We don't. We have no idea where we stop and where we go. So I think it's a great project. I want to ask David if he has any comments or questions. And then Steve, if you have any additional questions or comments too. David?
I don't have any questions. I think everybody's already asked them. I'm on board.
All right, thank you, Steve. And then Brooke.
Taking this through Personally, I feel it's in our best interest to separate these two. One, we've got waypoint and navigation, safety related, signage. And second, we're going after a grant for digital technology. I feel the town has clearly spoken on the latter of the two. And I think if we pursue them, in parallel, that the messaging will get mixed. People will think, you know, here they go again, you know, with that. And part of that is based on the assumption, town manager has mentioned in the past that sometimes you are more attractive in pursuing grants based on the low number of grants that you've received. Are we putting ourselves in increased exposure for pursuing this particular grant that it seems the town is not necessarily on board for or on board with? Would it be advantageous to let this one go that may up our chances of pursuing another grant that may be more applicable to the town? So I don't know if there was a question there. I guess my comment is I think it would be best if we communicated or if we approach those independent of one another, because I do believe the town would be on board and should be on board from the waypoint perspective, from you know, all of the I don't know what parks what, and so I'd be down with it. But I just think that technology grant would create some unnecessary tension with everything else that we've got going on. So just my thought.
So can you tell us about the grant process that you've already done? Have you started it already?
It's submitted and we should have an answer right there today.
Okay.
But if I could just jump in here, this particular grant it has a cap of $150,000. We put in two grants, one for this and one for Highland Lake. There's an aggregate cap for a community of $250,000. So they came back to us and said, hey, what do you wanna do? So we split the difference. So that one's $125,000 and the Highland Lake one is $125,000. If the board doesn't wanna pursue the grant, we can pull back and tell them all we want is a maximum of $150,000 for Highland Lake. As far as it affecting our ability to get other grants, this is kind of a carve out of COVID money that was sort of left over. They really pushed us to try to apply for these grants. These, you don't get gigged for getting too many of them. But if the board is reluctant to pursue this grant, even though it would be fully funded by the state, we can pull back on it. All we have to do is tell them we're no longer interested, our board doesn't want to do it, and we'll just go with the other grant.
I would like
I think our messaging would be different this time though.
Yeah, I would like to just comment on that, because I think it's important, from public information standpoint to highlight the things that we do with grants, and not just once or twice, but really let people know Highland Lake is being paid for by a grant. This thing right here is being paid for with a grant. Not a couple of different times, but over and over and over, so they realize that it's grant money, not their money. And that's, you know, same thing with any kind of funding for this signage. Impact fees, not your dollar. So it has to be a clear message to the residents. Part of the reason that this grant would work is because we already have the first steps with KMA going, because we have already gone through that bid proposal. The timeline for that grant is 8 months. So 8 months from the day that we get, anybody gets that money, the project has to be completed. So when you add in going out to bid, getting contracts approved, all of that, you're extending it, it wouldn't be possible, if it wasn't at this time.
Brooke, then Chris.
I wanna kind of piggyback on what Steve said, except that I think going for the grant is important. And you being, town staff does such an incredible job maximizing our money by going after these grants. And I think it would be ridiculous of us to not go after a grant. I see where the perception issue is, but the grant for an electronic signage for the trail system is totally different than putting an electronic sign in town park here where people said too much to not now. With that said, my really remaining question, and I was trying to go through when the KMA stuff and everything, for the $200,000, I know you can't tell me we're getting X, Y, and Z, but are we getting one large digital, this is what's happening in town, and one gateway sign at 66? Are we getting every road entranceway that, let's say, that already has the old logo, Town of Mead, not for lack of better terms, redone, but a new one placed there in addition to one central downtown sign? Like, quantify this $200,000, because I think it is very different if we're getting one downtown digital sign and signage at 66 in Seekage, which is necessary. We talk about it. Signage is necessary. I'm afraid that if we're just saying $200,000 and throw it up in there, and when we're finished, we have 2 signs.
I can answer that. So, one of the things that I really liked about KMA is it is very difficult to kind of outline what you might possibly get when you don't have building materials and you haven't figured that out, or they haven't done an analysis on the town. But what I did like about KMA is they did provide a budget estimate, which was an approximate $15,000 for the design, for the location, and scouting out all of that. And then about $13,000 for expenses, so that would be prototypes, mock-ups. That's if we need them. So expenses are, that would be the max. And then the rest of that money would be for fabrication of signage. And they provided a low option and a high option. The low option, and this is an estimate, but it was about $69,000 for signage, and it got you 2 gateway signs, I think 10 park signs, 20 navigational signs, and that was about it. The high estimate they provided, which was about $90,000, was three gateway signs, 15 park signs, 20 navigational signs, 20 directional signs, 20 pedestrian signs. So they did provide that in there. So it was a lot of signage. And that's where we'd have to go in and say, okay, we don't have 10 parks, we have 6. We don't need 20 navigational signs, we only need 10. So there's that little bit. But the signage with that amount of money was significant, with 3 gateway monument signs, and a multitude that were in the 15 to 20 for everything else.
Thank you. That actually completely answers. Thank you. And you have been completely thorough and a great champion, and I can tell you're passionate about, especially coming from Parks and Rec, and so me questioning is not knocking your presentation. Your presentations have been very thorough and wonderful. The citizens have spoken on other topic or other situations, so it is a lot, and just making sure we know what we're going for. Thank you.
Yeah, it helps a lot. It does.
Chris, and I know Tricia's got something to say.
I just have 2 really quick comments. One is that we need to explain to our citizens what grants are. Because if they think they're loans by some mistake of thinking, and we have to pay them back, we need to start that campaign now so that when that money comes in, they go, oh, we have $150,000 that we're gonna spend on X. It needs to be really clear that a grant doesn't have to be paid back. So that was the first thing. And the second thing is, and I'm gonna go back to the digital sign, we know that when that grant comes in, that's what it has to be dedicated to. Different than last time because we were using town funds to pay for the digital sign. And if I'm not mistaken, the people got up in arms because we're talking about not being able to fill potholes because of a $50,000 sign. We're not able to do the A, we're not able to do C. This can't be used for anything else. It's dedicated to this, and if we don't use it, we lose it. So it has a different mindset as long as we can make sure that we twist this into the citizens so they understand it before it starts. So, that's all.
Fun fact Friday, right? Explain how grants work.
Yep.
I grew up in Colorado, in Loveland, Colorado. Went to school in Fort Collins. Lived in Firestone, lived in Milliken, lived in Firestone. I had no idea Mead existed until 11 years ago when I moved here. I had no idea it existed. And I grew up here. And I drove this road and I had no idea Mead was even here. So, I do think that gateway signs and defining our town in that way is important. I do think that, and this is coming from my husband because we've had discussions about the branding effort that we started a while back. He does not understand how the branding effort increases commerce, how does that specifically bring businesses to Mead? I think that we need to make that more clear to people. Because we undertook the whole branding thing a couple years ago because we wanted to increase commercial development here. People don't understand. How does a sign mean that a company wants to move here? I think that is something we need to dive into a little more and make more clear to people what our intentions are and what we're hoping to get from this. It's not just to direct people to parks. Yeah, that's great. But there's a lot more to it. Lots of people want more commercial here. They want more tax money coming from retail businesses rather than from their own pockets, right? So I think that would be a good thing that we need to kind of pursue, I guess, is explaining to them how does this actually bring business to Mead and what the benefits are going to be besides just, I mean, safety obviously is a great reason to do it. But there's more than that, and I think we need to make it very as clear as we can what those other benefits are and why we're undertaking this. And even going back to the whole branding of the new logo, I mean, there were people like, why do we just pay for it? We just did a logo. Why are we redoing it a year later? You know, or however long it was. People were upset about that we put the money into redoing our logo, and again, they didn't get what the whole branding thing was about. So I think that would be important going forward. But I do think that this is important. And if we just capped it and said, well, let's just use the 50,000 in downtown funds to do this, we're gonna get crap. I mean, why even bother if you're just gonna use the 50,000 from the downtown fund? We've gotta use it for something. Yeah, we could put some benches down there, but do we need any benches down there? No, we need signage. We need to direct people, we need to define our town. So I think this is a good use of that money, and in order to make the most of it, we've gotta add some other funds to it, to make it worth our while to undertake this. And so, I'm on board. I think this is great. I think it's all good, and that we need to move forward, but we do need to do some education in coordination with this, so.
I'm always looking for Fun Fact Fridays. Please ship them my way.
Could I address that, and I mean, just generally, the whole concept of branding, and I mean, it's more than just a Fun Fact Friday, because there isn't like, and I would love to meet your husband, because I too was one of those people. I've been through a branding effort wherever I worked, and I'm like, what difference does it make what the logo is? What difference does it make? And it is so much greater than the simple logo. There is so much more to defining and having a community the community values that come out through the process. It's not a one-to-one correlation. Oh, if we have that sign, then somebody's gonna come here. I'll give you an example of a business that I was talking to lately that's on the fence about coming to Mead. They don't see the growth, because it isn't as visible, because we are so big that you don't see the Sorrento and they don't see the Highlands. They're concerned that we are growing properly, like all the other communities around us. And part of what they're looking for is a commitment to the community. And part of that commitment is this branding, because it says, every time you see a police car drive down the street with that logo on it, it says something. Every time you have a sign that says, now you're in Mead, it's a subliminal thing. It's not a direct correlation to economic development. It's a long game, but it shows the community investing in itself. And I sat there and I've been, to multiple meetings with this particular person, and I keep trying to tell them, we're the little engine that could. We're getting there. It isn't as obvious right away, but those are it's a subliminal thing that defines the community, and it shrinks the borders, and it makes people closer. I mean, and that's just my little soapbox. We'll put it on Fun Fat Friday, but it's something that's part of that community conversation. That's a reflection of each one of you. So, not that I'm a big fan of it, but I really am. I've seen it in communities, and I see it now, and I'm drawn to it like a magnet. And a lot of it is because of Lorelei, because she has so much passion for it. So, that's all. I just wanted to throw that out there, because I'd love to meet your husband, because I love his criticisms. They're not, it's critical thinking. That's what we should all be doing, so.
Well, and I sit in here and I hear everything, and so when we discuss, I like his perspective coming from somebody who hasn't sat in a meeting and got all the info. He just hears little bits here and there and whatever. So I love getting his input on things, because he sees it differently than I do, because I sit in this room and I get all the info, and it's, of course, isn't that clear as mud? And him it's not. And so I like bouncing things off of him all the time, so.
Any other discussion? All right, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for all the information that's in the packet today. All right, is there a motion regarding resolution number 21-R-2021?
I'll make a motion, if I can find it. Page 154. 54, I'll almost make a motion, I'm getting there. No, sorry. Time's up. Thank you for the page. That's the third page?
129.
We're ahead of, I was way ahead of you. Alright, well, I'll make the motion when I get there. 130. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 21-R-2021. Resolution of the Town of Mead, Colorado, approving an agreement for professional services between the Town of Mead and Karis, how's it pronounced? KMA concerning wayfinding signage and implementation plan services for an amount not to exceed $200,000.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call please, Mary.
Trustee Fox,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Trustee Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to ordinance number 960. This will be introduced by our town clerk treasurer, Mary Strutt.
Thank you, Mayor and the board. This ordinance before you is for an amendment to the Mead Municipal Code and the liquor distance requirements in it. Many municipalities that have a compact downtown such as us do change their distance requirements, and that's what we're asking you to do tonight.
do you have any questions or comments? David, do you have any questions or comments for Mary?
No, I do not.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion regarding ordinance number 960?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 960, an ordinance of the town of Mead, Colorado, amending section 6-3-115A of the Mead Municipal Code concerning distance restrictions for new liquor licenses.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, Mary. Roll call, please, Mary.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
Trustee Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Fox,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlock.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Motion carries. We'll go on to our third new business for this evening. And it'll be single axle dump truck lease purchase, introduced by our town engineer, public works director, Eric.
Thank you, good evening. During the March blizzard, one of our tandem dump trucks did slide off the road and was damaged when it went into the ditch. Initially, we didn't think that the damage was all that severe, but if you look at these photos Lorelai's pulled up, the truck actually, and remember during the storm, the visibility is very low, and so to see the edge of the road where there's no markers is really difficult. So the plow actually went into the ditch, and the truck, it folds over, and the truck actually went up on top of it. So the tires in that photo are sticking up off of the ground. This is after the fact. Obviously, we actually had to cut the plow off. It couldn't be removed. So yeah, unfortunately, the damage was extensive. To the point that Sursa, our insurance carrier, they totaled the truck. So because of its age, it's a 1999. The value is $10,000. The plow is $7,500. So we'll get a check from Sursa for $17,500. The sander was slightly damaged, which is in the back, in the bed of the truck. We'll fix that and salvage that, and we'll actually sell that at auction. And it's relatively new. It was new in 2018, so it'll have a decent salvage value. Unfortunately, that leaves us in a really difficult position. We have one reliable dump truck, which is our 2017. You'll remember I was here in December, and requesting the purchase of a single axle to replace a 1989 single axle truck, and this board approved that replacement, which is on order, and it should be here later this summer. The item before you tonight is a request to finance another single axle truck, identical to the one we already have on order, which would bring our fleet back up to 3, which is where we started. When we contacted our vendor, we learned that they did order another vehicle exactly like ours, and it is behind us in the production queue, and they'd be willing to sell us that vehicle for the same price, same financing, interest rates, and again, it's exactly the same. And so the good news in that sense is it's already in the production queue. If we were to purchase something today and place an order, it probably would not be here in time for the winter. So there is some urgency to securing this vehicle, which is why we're here tonight. And just to get your concurrence to pursue that, we'll bring back the necessary paperwork at the May 10th meeting, because we couldn't quite get that. We have to apply for the loan and all that kind of, get the agreement formalized, and so we'll bring that back to you on the 10th. So this truck, just to refresh your memory, is $203,000. It would be financed for 5 years. Again, all the terms are the same to our prior purchase that we discussed in December. So between the sale of the sander and the insurance payout, we feel we can comfortably cover that first payment without any changes to the budget this year. Obviously, we'll have to budget those future payments moving forward in future budget years. happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments?
We weren't really planning on replacing that truck so soon. Kinda hurts. Are we gonna have problems budgeting for another truck so soon when we just did the one purchase and then we've got the new fleet vehicles that we did the whole lease agreement with? Is this going to be an issue going forward, or are you comfortable that you can find this funding without a problem?
Yeah, I feel comfortable we can find it. It's about a $43,000 annual payment.
Right. That hurts. It hurts. That's painful. But I mean, what do we do? What else can we do? We have to have the 3 trucks. We cannot.
We need more than 3 trucks.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Honestly,
right?
So.
Well, in
Gotta
an
get back to
ideal
where we were.
world, yes, we could use more than 3, but at minimum, we need the 3. So we're kind of between a rock and a hard place here. We really have no choice in the matter. And if we didn't buy the one that they've got in the queue already, $10 says we have an enormous October snowstorm that would bury us and we'd be screwed.
Steve?
Is there any concern with the, in your financial considerations, you said that a little bit of robbing from Peter to pay Paul, extending or postponing the purchase of the water tank that was budgeted? Any adverse risks with delaying that?
I don't believe so. We can rent one. What we would utilize that for mostly is gravel road maintenance and watering behind or ahead of the blade in order to do gravel road maintenance. So that's something we can rent that if we need to for short periods of time. So that's another option. I hadn't mentioned in your packet about the payout from the insurance that there would be that as well. So that's also another option, and even moving forward if we needed to postpone that for a couple of years, so that we had that 30,000, I believe is what the water tank was, rolled that over to next year or utilize it for this payment. Certainly the truck is much more important than that in my mind, so I'm happy to sacrifice that for the truck.
Well, I'm glad we're good with money but we don't have to dip into reserves because like Tricia said, oh God, it was a 99. I mean, we thought we'd get 10 more years out of that bad boy, right? I mean, we replaced the 89. We were ready for that 99 to go. But again, these happen and they hurt, but it's awesome that we can. I feel like it's less robbing Peter to pay Paul because it's there. We have to jiggle a little, but like you said, yeah, we need that, but there's ways to get around it. So, as much as this is a need, this isn't a want.
Yeah.
And I guess the only, and I don't know how you get around this, like, we'll have 2 2022, wow, that's, you know what I'm trying to say, vehicles. Are they gonna wear out at the same time? I mean, I know you can't look into your magic 8-ball for that, but that's, I guess, my biggest concern.
Not having them staggered.
Yeah, you know, you would, but, now my husband, my sounding board, because again, I think we do all, or we hear it all, and so you're like, is what I'm hearing is used isn't an option. These trucks they get used up, like, and not, we used our 89, every ounce of it. So, I mean, used isn't an option. You really have to, or the value isn't worth it. I mean, I know that I never wanted to purchase a new vehicle, but at some point you look at, you know, the incentives for the new and the discounts you get and everything. Have we looked if there's anything around?
My 2 major hesitancies, I guess, with buying used is, one, we don't have a mechanic on our staff, and so we don't really know what we're getting from an auction, for example, and we don't have the ability to work on it. So we may save some dollars there, we may spend more in maintenance because it has to go out, and while it's at the shop, it's out of service.
Right.
So the other reason is we get a warranty, a manufacturer warranty that comes with it, so we can give a little more time to work out the kinks and make sure that anything that's not working right is covered under warranty. So those are my two main reasons for going new.
Okay. Well, that answers my question, thank you.
And I would be coming to you to replace the 99 in a couple of years. Anyway, we're accelerating it obviously more earlier than we wanted to, but that was not something that was gonna last us a long time either.
A lot more roads.
Yeah.
Right? We do have a lot of roads. I wonder, some fun fact Friday. I mean, how many roads do we have to maintain and plow and when
Versus
people.
2 years
100
ago.
miles, right?
Right, and versus, yeah, and with each additional, and people saying a plow hasn't been down, which honestly, I don't know how you could have said that for these last storms, because it was impressive. The amount of snow, especially the big storm that we got, the amount of snow and the amount of snow that was removed and how quickly I saw plows coming through our neighborhood, and I thought, wait, they're in the neighborhoods already? Yay! So, fun fact Friday is how much they have to plow,
I
but
think
yeah.
that was the fill dirt guy that was just taking cash donations to clear people's driveways. But to that,
But no, I saw a town plow come by my house way sooner than I would have ever expected.
to that point, we had a single, it was defined to me as a single bucket pass that my truck couldn't get through. Is the blade width standard on these plows?
Yeah, they come in different sizes, but we did have to utilize a loader for a lot of this snow removal in the neighborhoods. It wasn't a plow.
But typical, the plow width is wider than a loader bucket?
Yeah, so it's 12 feet, if I remember right, but on an angle, obviously, so it's something less than that.
Okay. Little selfishness coming out. I was
But yeah, the loader bucket is much smaller than that, so that could have been part of it too.
Chris?
I just want to comment and say that, I'm not a big person for using money that we have in reserve, but I think this is exactly what reserves are for. For the unexpected, and this, I guess, kind of proves that our having the reserves is covering us for something that was totally unexpected, so.
Yeah. Kudos to you for bringing it up while the storm's still fresh in the.
That's
Hold
true
on.
too.
Perfect timing.
5-3.
David, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I do not.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your time. Is there a motion regarding the dump truck purchase?
I move to authorize the town manager and the public works director to proceed with the necessary steps to secure the 2022 HB 507 SFA International truck as described in the McCandless proposal dated April 21st, 2021, including but not limited to completing the credit application with KS State Bank and finalizing the lease purchase contract for consideration by the Board of Trustees at an upcoming regular board meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call please, Mary.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
trustee Babcock,
Yes.
trustee Fox,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you, motion carries. Next, we'll go on to our second public comment period. Again, please raise your hand to speak. When you are recognized, please state your name and address, and please, if you can, limit your comments to 3 minutes. Jean, you have the floor if you want to talk to us tonight.
Quit singling me out.
All right, well, Jean, thanks for being with us all night. We appreciate it. Next, we'll move on to elected official reports, but before we get there, Marcus passed out some legislative update paperwork. Would you give us a couple minutes of your time and update us on anything that you need to let us know what's going on, plus the Senate bill?
Well, sure. Let me just summarize what was passed out. So this is an
an update on some legislation that was recently introduced in the Senate, specifically Senate Bill 21238. This Senate bill aims to create a special taxing district to be known as the Front Range Passenger Rail District along the I-25 corridor, and ultimately would provide passenger rail service all the way from Wyoming to New Mexico, if this bill is successful and the financing for this endeavor is secured. So this district would include areas within Weld County that are located within the territory of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which in your case, as the town of Mead, because you are included within the Dr. Cog boundaries, you would be included within the territory of this proposed district. So the memorandum that I distributed does provide a summary of the key points of this Senate bill, and is organized into a couple of main sections. One is to give you an overview of what the governing board of this entity would look like if this district is ultimately formed. And on the second page, there's an overview of the authority of the Front Range Passenger Rail District. And let me maybe bring your attention to middle of the page, on page 2. You'll note that the proposed district's financial authority would include the ability to establish and collect fares and fees for the use of the passenger rail system, and levy a sales and or use tax upon majority approval of the registered electors within the boundaries of the district. You'll note at the bottom of page 2, the bill status is that because this was introduced, the initial hearing before the Senate Transportation and Energy Committee will be tomorrow on Tuesday, April 27th at 2 p.m. Given the initial committee hearing has not yet been conducted, I don't have much of an update for you. And you'll note also that I've included information that the Colorado Municipal League has not adopted any sort of formal position on this yet. I just thought that this is a piece of legislation I wanted to bring your attention to. It'll be interesting to see where this ultimately goes. I think one of the main challenges with any sort of public transportation is always, do you have the population density to support it, and do you have enough ridership of that rail that it would actually make financial sense? And I will leave that to smarter people to make that decision. But I will say that Coloradans and residents of the town of Mead are much like other Americans, and we seem to really love our cars and trucks, so it'll be interesting to see where this one ultimately heads. But as I have updates throughout the remaining balance of the legislative session, I'll publish it, apprise you as to the status of this bill as we move forward.
I just wanted to add on to that I've been part of the Northern Coalition for this thing for a couple of years. And as of today, I don't know which path they're going to take, because there's 3 paths coming from Pueblo up to Fort Collins. One's out to DIA and then back into Fort Collins, one's straight up I-25, and the other one is out to Boulder and then back up to Fort Collins. So it will be interesting to follow this and find out how they're gonna fund this all the way through, because they're gonna have to justify the ridership, you know, so I just wanted to point that out. This is
how they get the land, how do they, I don't even know how they would do that. That would just be, wow.
It's been interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people.
We're talking 9.5 and everybody's like,
Yeah.
you're doing what? This thing would go from Wyoming to, wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, you know, at the bottom of the first page, you can see where Amtrak and BNSF Railway and Union Pacific they've all been a non-voting kind of partner with these. And so it's a push, I'm sure politically, more so than, you know, small towns, but that's just what I wanted to add to that, because it's very interesting how they bring, you know, the concept of something that's from somewhere else and bring it to Colorado, and it may or may not work, but it's been interesting. It's been a very interesting coalition to be with these people, so I've learned a lot about rail. And I guess the biggest thing too is TDOT's part of this too, and, you know, trying to take, the biggest concern is
there may or may not be taking funds away from road versus, so there's the political kind of game, it's not a game I get, but I guess it's who has the biggest bucket of money, where it's coming from, and what the feds wanna do with it, so. Thank you very much for the update, appreciate it, keep us in the loop,
Will do.
okay?
Yeah, Mayor, I would just like to point out what I consider to be the poison pill of this, is that 3 representatives from the Denver area MPO, Dr. Cobb, and you can say we're in it, but, there's like 2 million people in that one. And then 2 representatives from Pikes Peak, which is Colorado Springs in El Paso County. And then there's like, basically, so that's 5 of the major population centers. And then everything north of Denver has like, 1, basically. So if it's gonna be a throughput, it has to be more equally balanced along to try to get the northern Colorado people to vote for it, because you gotta have the real estate north of Denver. So that would just be my comment in looking at it, and also, like you have worked on a lot of things, that involve rail and transportation, but if you wanna sell it statewide, you need to have a more fair representation along every whistle stop.
And the balance of the small towns such as Berthoud and Mead, we've been at those meetings, and been at the table trying to, we're still here, we're here, and it may not be all of me that takes it, maybe 1 person, maybe 2 people, but at least we're at the table trying to fight for the rural voice, instead of, some of the big ticket towns or cities such as Denver that have a lot of money for it, so. But good points. All right, we'll move on to elected official reports. Any of the town trustees would like to speak tonight?
I have a question, Helen. So I was looking at the Affinity site that we approved in the consent agenda. I guess maybe I should pull it from the consent agenda, but it was just more of a question than a problem of any sort. So it calls for the convenience station and then a huge building, and I'm looking at the site plan. Where are they putting a big building on this site plan? Because there's nothing.
It was overlapped.
I'm just curious, cause they've got the convenience store, then you got parking lot, then you got the pump station, then parking lot, right? I'm like, is,
It's the one that runs over.
where's the
It's
building?
it's on top of a parking lot.
So
for
this
phase 2.
asphalt parking lot that's on the front edge, that is currently just gonna be an asphalt parking lot, that's the proposed building site for the larger building?
They have not proposed a second building. What you passed tonight is just their first building. They're
Okay.
still working with our.
Well, I know, but it did
building
say in there that the plans,
It's on,
it called for, in the thing, it said that they were proposing a larger commercial building there as well, so that's why I just was curious. What?
Chris, do you want to comment?
It's the second
Can you go
phase.
up to the?
They would build the convenience store in the first phase, and then that second building would consist of office space and potentially more retail, and they would build that at a later date. So they're entitled for it now, though, so they wouldn't have to come back all the way through the process, and so that was the point. The only thing they need to do is come through us for architectural review and then a building permit.
Okay, alright, I was just looking at that, trying to figure out exactly where that was potentially going to be in the future.
We
Because
have to do,
it did mention it in here, and I'm like, really? That seems
They had to
awfully
account
big
for-
that site, but.
sorry, they had to account for that space for now, so there's parking and landscaping that makes that up, but eventually that'll be removed and then a new building will be put there.
Okay.
So we essentially
Yes.
have to do 2 sets of plans, because they wanted to be entitled for both of those phases now, so that since they're already sort of waist deep in the process versus coming back and having to do that again, reapply.
Okay, so that's where it was, though, that's where they're reserving that footprint, is that
Correct.
one little asphalt section. Okay.
That's correct.
It was just a question, like I said, not really a problem
No.
with what we approved earlier, it
It's
was
a great,
curiosity
it's a
thing.
great question, because sometimes when we bring things, you probably wonder why some come one way and some come another. For example, Ziggy's had to do a plat, cause it put together like, I don't know, 12 of these skinny little lots, and they put it all together. So they had to do a plat and a site plan. And they also have encompassed the entire site with their building. But in the case of some of these site plans that come in, they could be multi-phased. So in this case, this was just a site plan and ultimately a building permit will follow. So what they're trying to get, you know, they wanna make sure they have their business model covered and they can get all that approved by coming in here. And as you know, it's an administrative approval, staff's already vetted it. So that's what's different, that's what's unique about, you know, site plans. And you won't see on them noticed, like you don't see a sign up, hear ye public notice, like you do for Ziggy's because it had a plat, or some of these subdivisions. That, you know, you see that sign out there, like we had one out there for Mead Place for like a year because they were going through their process, now it's down. So, just a little primer on some of the things that come before you.
Okay, and I liked the building, by the way, just to throw that out there, kinda looked kind of barnish, it seemed to fit the rural feel. I like their building, the look of their building.
Steve?
So we've been the proud owners of the newest piece of town real estate for all of about 12 hours. And when I drove past it today, I'm already looking like that's an extension of us. It's a representation of us. That hanging down old banner looks like crap, and some of those dead trees along the side. I'd love to volunteer for maybe all of us to meet one afternoon or something to clean it up. I know we've got cleanup days coming in 2 weeks. I think it would be really cool for us to polish that up a little bit.
Polish our turf.
That was Trustee Harris. I think there's pride in ownership, and it's so exciting that, you know, that we've invested in our downtown area, and I think that is an extension of our identity. And I'd really like to do anything I could to help, you know, volunteer to clean it up.
I'm in.
Yeah, me too. Great quest.
Let's go in and look at it, and then we'll come up with that. It'll be nice to just have it mowed all the time.
Yeah.
In the summer, we're always getting weed violations, so now we'll have to give them to ourselves for a mower. But we'll get back to you on that, that's a great idea.
Chris?
I just wanted to say thanks, first of all, to the Mead Police and to Public Works for at least getting the 25-mile-an-hour sign back up on Walker and Ginger. It was taken down on Friday by some unknown force and was back up again Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, so thank you for that. Because Walker, I could not figure out why people were going 35 and 45 miles an hour besides the normal traffic down that road, and I saw the sign was gone. So I know it's gonna come back because it was a radar sign, so I'm sure that's gonna come back to us, so thanks for that. And the second thing is, and this is kind of thinking about our wayfaring signs and all the other fun stuff, but CDOT has the roadway exit signage program that you can petition for, and they let you put up the signs that say food, restaurant food, gas, and all those other things. Knowing that we're gonna have a gas station, and knowing that Ziggy's is gonna be built, and we already have this, we will have a C-store, we will have Josie's Tacos, maybe this is the time that we can go to CDOT and say, hey, could we get an exit sign? I know that they cost a little bit of money, but if you're trying to get people to our downtown, the only way to do it is to tell people what we have. So, I know the owners of the buildings, it's $1,500 for a year. I don't think it's gonna kill anybody who's in business, and maybe even the town could support us the first year. So just a thought, but I'm trying to get people, once we have a downtown, we can bring people in, so, anyway, just toss it out there.
And it probably takes 5 years to get that signage approved, so
Well,
we
that's
should
why
start the
I'm-
ball rolling now, right?
That's all.
David, do you have anything tonight?
No, I do not, I'm great, Tony, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I just wanted to bring up one thing from myself. And you do have a little bit of an AIS, in there that several community organizations have asked me before and during COVID and now, when can we, do a flag return ceremony? So I think if we could do it, sooner rather than later. I think it'd be, you know, appreciative of, we've got some scouts that really wanna do it. I think it's we've never had one here in Mead, and I think we could do it, and I just need your blessing to coordinate it with the fire department and, of course, chiefs and, you know, the officers, and so, would that be okay?
Absolutely. Fantastic.
David, would that be okay if I coordinated a flag retirement ceremony?
Absolutely.
Okay, cause I know there's one scout, troop that has over 2,000, I know that we have at least 600 that we need to get rid of, so. It's a really cool ceremony, so once I get the date, I'll let you all know, and then, you know, I think it's gonna be on a weekend, because I don't think we can throw down that fast fire, so anyway, is there anything else before we leave? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I will motion to adjourn.
I will second the motion.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams,
Yes.
Trustee Bott,
Yes.
Trustee Cartwright,
Yes.
Trustee Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlam.
Yes, and thank you, before I end the end of the meeting, please join us tonight for cake. We have cake for the municipal clerk.
Online, let them know we have cake.
Jean left, so she won't know what she's missing out on.
Save some cake for David and his family. And we're celebrating the closing of the New Rec Center. So the April 26, 2021 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is now adjourned at 8:06. I appreciate your time and all my flubbering